The Arizona Cardinals and Kyler Murray have agreed to a 5-year, $230.5 million contract extension. The deal runs through the 2028 season, includes $160 million in guaranteed money, and the average annual value of Murray's deal at $46.1 million is the second highest in the NFL now, behind only the Green Bay Packers star Aaron Rodgers, who is getting a little over 50 at 50.3. Right behind Murray, that is Deshaun Watson's deal with the Cleveland Browns, an average annual amount of 46 on the dot, and Patrick Mahomes' deal of 45 on the dot. So, Ryan, you have been behind this man for a long time. How you feel about your man getting this contract after the way the Arizona Cardinals bowed out of last year's season and the season before that, actually?
So it's a big contract. And if you're going to defend Kyler Murray like I will, the thing you would point to is the back half of each of the last 2 years, he's been hurt. And once he's gotten hurt, his play has fell off an absolute cliff. Now, it's a problem if you keep getting hurt. You don't want to pay off that money to someone who keeps getting hurt. But when he's healthy, he's really, really good. And the Cardinals win like a lot of their games. And when he's not healthy, they're really bad. His demeanor is just one that doesn't seem like, it's very opposite of Tom Brady. It's like just very calm and almost disengaged. It's disengaged that they're losing, right? That's what it looks like, because it looks like he doesn't care about anything. So that certainly doesn't help, just like the public image of it. And like, I don't know if I would have done this when I was the Cardinals. Like, you kind of have to pay your quarterback. Are you ever going to get a quarterback as good as Kyler in the next 10 years on your team? Probably not. Does it seem like it's early to pay him? Yeah. And he doesn't have like the success that typically you pay one of these guys for. So the way to defend it would be to say that he's been injured the back half of the last 2 years, which is when he's falling off. When he's been healthy, he's been really good. And, I don't know if there's a new TV deal coming or something coming up where the salary cap goes up and it's a little bit less of a hit. But I would understand people say that the Cardinals had to do this, but it's a big number to give to Kyler. It's just big, and he's not, which is one of the reasons he probably keeps getting hurt. But you only hope that he gets better. Well, that he stays healthy, but you hope that he gets better and that he can at least be worth close to $46 million, because right now he's not worth $46 million, but you're not necessarily paying him for what he did. You're paying him for kind of what you project he can do in this, is it 5-year window, 6-year window, whatever it is. And that's just kind of the way it goes. And you hope he reaches it. If he stays the same player, he's not going to be worth it. But if he gets better, I think there's a chance that you could sort of justify that salary.
Okay, so before I give my thoughts on this, I'm going to give little stats and facts for all of y'all. So in 2019, his first year, the Cardinals had 5 wins. Then in 2020, they had 8 wins. And then last year, they had 11 wins. So he has done a good job of giving the Cardinals a better season year in and year out. He is the first NFL player in history with at least 70 passing touchdowns, 20 rushing touchdowns, 3,500 yards passing, 400 yards rushing. And he's had 17 games of his career so far with a completion percentage of at least 70% in his first 3 seasons. He won Offensive Rookie of the Year in 2019, and he's been a Pro Bowler. Some might question that, but he has been a Pro Bowler the last 2 years. Another fact for you. The Arizona Cardinals are one of the worst franchises in NFL history when it comes to quarterback stability. They don't have quarterbacks that stick around there more than 5 years. You look at Carson Palmer, Kurt Warner. They each played there for 5 years. But before that, there aren't that many. You had Jake Plummer playing 6 years, and that's the most. So the Cardinals have had issues keeping a quarterback around for a long time, whether that be health issues like Carson Palmer had, or age that Kurt Warner had and Carson Palmer had, or you just had really, really bad quarterbacks year in and year out. So you didn't want to keep them, and they don't want to have that same situation with Murray. He can absolutely change that narrative. The question comes in for me is, could they have waited? Could you have waited to see how this season played out and then decided? You run the risk, absolutely, but I think they jumped the gun a little bit. Again, with you, I understand why they felt they needed to do this. You look at their history, you look at what's happened, you look at the weapons that he has to get the ball to, and you figure this is a good football team on the rise, and they feel they have the quarterback and head coach combination to get them eventually to the promised land. To prove them right now, Kyler Murray, you have to go win a playoff game or two. You can't just keep doing this thing now where the second half of the season, everything falls apart. You can't stay healthy, and you can't win a game when it matters most at the end of the year. They had chances the last few years. They blew every single one of them. Now, it's going to be interesting because I believe, Ryan, the first 6 games of this season, they are going to be without their best weapon in D-Hop. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. So you got 6 games without your number 1 wide receiver. They have a decent running game. And
Marquise
Murray should be healthy, to start the year. So it should be interesting to see. I understand why the Cardinals did it. I don't 100% think it's the right thing to do. It's a lot of money, and it's a guy that hasn't been able to stay healthy yet. So it should be interesting to see what happens.
And on, face value, he's making more per year than Patrick Mahomes. So then you can obviously say no, it's not the right decision because he's not as good as Patrick Mahomes is. That's not the way these contracts work. But it's, there's also a thought, and I think I do subscribe to it, where I wouldn't pay any quarterback this much money unless you were like Patrick Mahomes. Or I think you could win a Super Bowl if the team around you wasn't also excellent. But I don't think very many quarterbacks at all are capable of that. Like I said, I think one guy in the league is probably good enough to mask the deficiencies that might otherwise kill you and cost you a Super Bowl win. And I think that guy's already been paid, and he's being paid less than what this guy is. So in that aspect, in that train of thought, no, I wouldn't have paid him, but that's just not the way any of these teams think. And that's not going to be the way business is ever done in the NFL.
Right. And you got to be fair to Kyler Murray throughout all his ups and downs. And I understand we are in a very pass happy league now in the NFL, but his over 13,260 plus combined passing and rushing yards through 3 years is third most in league history, behind just Andrew Luck and Cam Newton. So he's obviously getting the job done as far as the numbers are concerned, and the wins have come. They've gotten better each season. You got to find a way to stay healthy and play the second half of the season nearly as well as you played the first half. Because look, last year, halfway through the season, they were talking about Kyler Murray as an MVP candidate. So
they're 8-0, 9-0, and then he got hurt, and then they won 2 games the rest of the way. So by the time they got in the first round against the Rams, the wheels were already falling off. I know one of our friends was talking about how the Cardinals were the most talented team in the NFL. It's you just didn't watch the last 8 weeks of the season then, because this was a really bad team the last entire half of the football year. And, obviously a big part of it was Kyler was hurt, and then D-Hop got hurt towards the end of the season. And, the wheels just fell off, and then they ran into a buzzsaw, and the Rams were just able to, put that game over in the first 5 minutes.
Oh, yeah.
With Stafford throwing, 7 passes at halftime, it was 21-0 or something.
Mm-hmm. Well, and there were a lot of questions going into that first round game as well, because, we had that big matchup between the Rams and the Cardinals at game 5 of the season, I think, 5 or 6, something like that. And the Cardinals looked great in that game, and the Rams did not. So that's jumped on.
And that happened. And then he got hurt, and then they lost a bunch of games. And by the time they'd made the playoffs, they were a bad team. They were just bad for a playoff team. They were a bad team by the time the playoffs were around. The Lions beat them. They did.
I know.
They lost the Lions.
That's when it's bad.
Hey, Ryan Griffin here. Thank you so much for watching today's episode of Griffin and Bass. Be sure to give us your thoughts in the comments below. Remember to click the bell to receive the latest notifications from DSN, and subscribe for breaking news, community blogs, polls, contests, and other content